Freeze hits it in the air to center. We will see you tomorrow night.
8th pitch has been the magic one tonight. This time he hits the ball to deep right field. Cody Bellinger has done it, and the Dodgers win in Game 7.
1-1 for Thompson. Batista with a drive. Deep left field. No doubt about it.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Chasing 2 podcast, episode number 22. Dylan, a lot to go over. Spring training is upon us, and haven't been doing an episode in a couple weeks, but the first news we got to talk about is that Trevor Bauer signing. He goes to the Dodgers on a 3-year deal, $102 million. What a crazy deal for him. Good for him, but I know you weren't too crazy about him getting $45 million a year.
Yeah, it's tough, especially when you watch Mike Trout day in, day out, and you see his contract. Yeah. But there's been some more reports lately saying that I guess technically his AAV isn't that high. The signing bonus kind of helped that AAV, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of confusing, but
it is.
Yeah, it's a crazy deal. Good job on his agent. Good for him. He got paid, surprisingly. The Dodgers stuck it to the Padres and said, hey, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's good for the game for sure. But when I saw it, I was like, what the hell is going on here?
We were talking like off air, of course, like what would you get Bauer? We both said like that 30 to 33, max like $35 million. When I saw like $45 million, I was like, I mean, the Dodgers are one of the few teams that can do that, right? I mean, you can put maybe the Yankees into that class if they wanted to go out and do something like that, but I mean, you saw him do it with Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole's only making 36 a year, which I mean is kind of a slap in the face to him. I mean, Garrett Cole is a lot better than Trevor Bauer. I mean, sure, he won a Cy Young last year. He cashed in on that, but man, you look at Trevor Bauer's track record. I mean, he hasn't been a great pitcher his whole career. I mean, he's had a few good seasons here and there, but I mean, it's like a high 3 ERA, then a high 2 ERA, and then this year he had that. I think he had a 1.67 ERA. So it's definitely a risk for the Dodgers. I mean, he's got 2 opt-outs after years 1 and 2. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, and I mean, he does bring the media attention to the Dodgers. Not that they need it anymore. They're probably the most watched team, if I had to guess, in the East Coast, I should say.
Yeah.
Because, obviously on the East Coast, games get started late. Mm-hmm. If I had to guess, if I was an East Coast fan, the 2 teams I'd be checking in on are the Dodgers and Padres. So, it's definitely a risk. But, I mean, when you have that many owners and you have the money to do it, mm-hmm. You're big spenders. They're basically, I've said this before, they are the new Yankees. I think there's a new top dog in town.
Yeah.
The Dodgers are the team that's going to spend money, and they're going to do it strategically. But they also are really smart with developing players. So it's just their whole makeup as an organization. There's pretty much nothing better than that.
Well, you look at how this team is built. It's mostly all homegrown, right? I mean, all the guys that they developed, right? Bellinger, Seager, Gavin Lux coming up. Muncy.
Even if you want to throw in Justin Turner that got traded there.
Yeah, and Muncy got traded there, kind of resurrected his career. So you look at this rotation, Dylan. I mean, one of the scariest in all of baseball. I mean, we're talking about the Padres might have the best rotation in baseball, but with the Dodgers getting Bauer, they're definitely at the top list. So they're at the $250 luxury tax.
$250 million.
$250 million. That's what I meant to say. $250 million luxury tax threshold, right? So do you?
Well, it's 200 and it's actually 210, but they're up to 250.
But they're 250, yeah.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
They're way over the luxury tax. Do you see a trade pending here?
At first, I did, but I think they're just going to eat the tax. I mean, they already traded Dylan Floro and Adam Kolarek.
Mm-hmm.
In minor moves. They sent Floro over to Miami and they sent Cleric over to Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe that was just it's either Price or Pollock. Those are the
Yeah.
only two guys that really would put a dent in that luxury tax.
Yeah.
And I think that they're gonna run with Price in that rotation. I mean, I don't know.
Oof.
I think they're just gonna say, you know what, it is what it is, and
they're like 7 deep. I mean,
yeah,
Dustin May and Tony Gonsolin not even in the rotation right now, and they were supporters of winning that World Series last year. So it's crazy. I'm really interested to see how this Bauer contract works out for the Dodgers. But
yeah,
we'll stick with the Dodgers. We'll talk about Justin Turner. Like you mentioned earlier, he signs a 2-year, $34 million extension. I couldn't see Turner going into another uniform other than the Dodgers. It took a while to get done, but eventually it did get done.
yeah. I think he just played the field a little bit. Obviously, the Brewers said that they offered him a pretty good chunk of change.
Yeah.
As a player, obviously, the more interest you get from other teams, the higher your price is going to rise.
For sure. Yeah.
So, you know what, he played the field, but at the end of the day, obviously, he grew his career with the Dodgers. It only made sense. He's basically the captain, the vocal leader there.
Yeah.
If they lost him after losing Jock and Kike, it would be a big hit to the culture. So
Absolutely.
I think it was huge for the Dodgers to bring him back.
So do you think the Dodgers are still like the team to beat, even though I mean they did lose a lot of their depth guys?
I do. They have good prospects that they can bring up.
Mhm.
Obviously, you mentioned Gavin Lux, who really didn't play last year. We'll see what he does. They still have Chris Taylor that can play across the diamond. Edwin Rios kind of broke out on the scene a little bit last year. So
Mhm.
they have some guys that can replace that production. I wouldn't say the whole 30 homer production that you get from Jock, but
Yeah.
Edwin Rios does have pop, and if he could hit 20, I think that you know, we'll take that Edwin Rios at 800,000 over the
Yeah.
Jock at
Yeah.
7 million.
For sure. Let's stick in the NL West here. Tatis, man, another huge extension. 14 years, $350 million extension. The final year was rookie deal and all of his arbitration. So he's gonna get, I think it's an average annual value of $25 million a year, I want to say.
Somewhere around there.
It's the third highest extension in MLB history. Trout was number one, 12 years, $426 million. Betts, 12 years, 365. And then you got Tatis, and then Harper's the fourth at 13 years, $330 million. Do you see some pros and cons here? Did you see that he owes $30 million to that investment group?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, so Tatis, when he was 16 years old, he signed a deal with the investment group, and basically what I was reading is when he signs his first big deal, he has to give a chunk of that to an investor. So 30 of his $350 million actually goes over to that group, so which is interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know anything about that, but
Yeah.
they bought out his arbitration,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what that tells me is, okay, it's a 14-year extension. Take off the 4 years of what he's already gonna make,
Yeah.
and let's go 10 by 3. That's 30 million a year.
Yeah.
Or sorry, 10 by 300. It's 30 million a year. And basically that extra 50 million was just arbitration money, which he probably would have made
Yeah.
around there. I
You're
would see
probably
that
right.
the Rays would probably go from 7 to, say that he stays in the path that he is, 7 to
Maybe
18 to
15.
maybe 25 mil.
Yeah.
So right there, yeah, it's about 50 million,
Yeah. Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
So basically it bought out his ARB and then gave him a 10-year extension.
Yeah.
Smart, but I think it's a great deal from everybody's standpoint. I know that you were like, do you think you left money on the table? Hey, when you're 21, 22 years old,
Yeah.
they give you a check that says $350 million in front of you.
Tell me where to sign.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. I don't know how you don't say, all right,
Yeah.
there's no more wondering.
Yeah.
If I get hurt, I have the stability,
Yep.
taking care of my family. It's it's a great move by both sides. Tatis is an electric player. He may be the face of baseball coming up in the next couple of years, just based off of his electricity and the swag that he plays with. And he's on a video game now, the video
Yeah.
game cover, MLB The Show.
Yep.
He's starting to turn into that next, should I say, Ken Griffey type of guy.
And he's the guy, like, I still think Mike Trout is the face of baseball.
Yeah.
But when you look at Tatis, he wants the spotlight. He's got the flair, he's got the bat flips, and he I don't want to say creates controversy, but I mean, in a sense, he kind of does. I mean, some people didn't like the bat flip, but the game's changing, right? I mean, you're starting to see these young kids come up, show their passion and emotion and swagger, and I think it's great for the game of baseball.
Oh, it's great. And I mean, going back to the Ken Griffey thing, Ken Griffey was never the best player. I wouldn't say never, but I wouldn't say he was the best player in the MLB during his time, but he was the most sought after electric player in his time. Yeah, exactly.
Marketable? Yeah,
exactly. So I think that's Tatis is probably the next coming of that. I don't really think that we had really any. I guess Jeter in between, but Jeter wasn't flashy. So I think this is flashy and this is fun for the game of baseball. So yeah, Tatis, he's gonna bring people to the stadium as well in San Diego, and they don't get that big of crowds. So if you have this guy for 14 years and he's winning MVPs or coming close to it, he's drawing crowds. He's gonna get you, millions of dollars just in beer sales. So it's an investment, just like the Bauer. The Bauer deal was an investment for the Dodgers. This is as much of an investment for the Padres.
Let's talk about the Padres here for a second. What an offseason they've had. I mean, they bring in Hugh Darvish, they bring in Blake Snell. They bring in Joe Musgrove. They totally transformed that starting rotation. But I mean, like you said at the beginning of the episode, the Dodgers go out and get Bauer and say, we're still the top dog. But are the Padres like did the gap get closed significantly in this offseason?
Yes.
Okay. So like if you were to predict right now, like how many games behind do you think the Dodgers would be at the end of the year?
Oh, you mean the Padres?
Or the Padres, sorry, Padres.
6
games? Yeah, I was gonna say like 5 games, but let's talk about a debate right now. Marcus Stroman came out and said, when he was talking to the Pitching Ninja on YouTube, when he was talking about his pitching grips, he said that DeGrom is the best pitcher in baseball, and it's no debate. What do you got to say about that?
Completely agree. I don't think it's a false statement.
Yeah. So we're gonna play a little game here. We're gonna rank our top 5 starting pitchers in all of baseball. I'll kick it over to you for this for now.
Yeah, just so you know, Tyler Glasnow is not a top 5 pitcher in baseball. Blake thought that Tyler Glasnow.
He is pretty nasty though.
He thought there should be some consideration of Tyler Glasnow.
There is a lot.
I don't know why I do this podcast with Blake.
There's a lot of good pitchers though. I mean, man. Who do you got number 1? Obviously, we got DeGrom, right?
I don't know why I do this podcast with Blake.
Hey,
he says Tyler Glasnow should be top 5.
Hey. Who do you got number 1?
DeGrom. Okay, DeGrom's number 1. My number 2, I'm gonna give it to Garrett Cole based off the past 3 years.
Yeah.
Scherzer. I mean, he's basically giving me a 3.50 or above or below the past 8 seasons. 4, got to go with Clayton Kershaw. That back issue probably sets him a little back. I think if he was healthy full time, he might be in the number 2 or in consideration for that number 1. And number 5, I would have Justin Verlander if he was healthy. But I got Walker Buehler as my number 5. I think what's really set him and pushed him into that 5 spot, Bieber's in consideration as well, is just the postseason success. He's been lights out in the postseason. And that bulldog mentality kind of sets him apart for me.
Okay, I got DeGrom and Cole 1, 2 for me too. 3, I got Kershaw. I think Kershaw is one of the best pitchers of all time. Like you said, injuries have hampered him a little bit. Could be higher up there.
But when he's pitching, he's
Oh
he's
yeah,
good. He's great.
he's one of the
It's
best.
just he's not getting that 30 starts a year anymore.
Yeah, he's more about that 25, right? 25 range.
Yeah.
I got Scherzer 4, 5. I don't know, dude. It is such a toss up. Like
It's not Tyler Glasnow.
I'm gonna go. Let me see here. I'm gonna go.
Please, not Tyler Glasnow.
I'm gonna go Hugh Darvish. Is that like I think Hugh Darvish is a really good pitcher.
Based off the past year and a half, yes.
So
He had a little slump in between there, 2-year span coming off Tommy John, and
yeah,
with his Dodgers, and then the first year Cubs wasn't great.
yeah,
He wasn't terrible with the Dodgers, but he wasn't Yu Darvish of Texas.
yeah,
Now I feel like we're getting a better Texas version of Yu Darvish.
yeah.
At least the past year and a half. Now, with that being said, is that going to carry over to San Diego? I don't know. But the NL West is a very weak division.
Yeah, it's
going. I just want to jump back to Bauer real quick. I think you asked me or somebody else asked me, how do you think Bauer's going to do this year? And I said, I think he'll be just fine because of the division he plays in. I'm not saying he's going to have a 1 ERA, but I think that he's going to have.
Say. Like, I mean,
yeah,
it's so unfair to ask Trevor Bauer to replicate what he did in a shortened season where he had.
But are we going to get a 3.4? I think so. Just based off of the things that he's done outside of the organization or outside his prior organizations, and how he's developed his pitch mix.
Yep.
I think that we're going to get at least 3.4 out of him, if not better, just based off of you at the face Colorado. Diamondbacks can swing it sometimes, but they have their slumps, their big slump team. I just think that division is so weak. It's either Padres or Dodgers, and then after that, it's so bad.
So, what was your thoughts on the Twitter beef that Bauer and Noah Syndergaard had on Twitter this past week?
I mean, I think it started off all fun and games, and then it got personal.
Oh yeah.
Hey, if anything, it's just making those Mets, Dodgers, hopefully a Bauer start. Maybe by that time, I think it's late in the year, we get a Syndergaard Bauer matchup.
Yeah.
Primetime baseball. I mean, everybody's gonna be watching that if that happens. Yep. Especially if we get like a DeGrom Bauer or something like that. It's gonna be fun. I hope it happens.
So one of the guys, another pitcher who was waiting for that Trevor Bauer domino to fall was Jake Odorizzi. This guy, we're into spring training now. This guy's still unsigned. It makes so much sense for him to go to the Angels. It makes a lot of sense for him to go to the Blue Jays. It makes some sense to even go back to the Twins. Question for you is, where do you think he's going to go?
Man, I think the team that needs him the most is the Angels.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the team that will benefit the most if getting him will be the Angels.
Yeah.
I know I don't know for a fact, but reportedly, the Giants are interested as well. I actually went back yesterday because I was curious.
Mm-hmm.
John Boy had a interview with Jake Odorizzi early in the offseason, and it was his process through the offseason. So I started to listen to it. It's about 3-4 months old now.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought it was interesting to listen to. Obviously, the Mets are off the table, I would guess, with getting Taijuan Walker.
Yep.
I think the team that gets him, I want to believe it's the Angels, but I'll go Blue Jays or Giants. I'll lean Blue Jays because they play spring training in Florida, and I know he lives in Florida based off that interview. And they're going to be playing in Dunedin.
We'll get to that in a second, yeah.
Or a wild card, the Astros.
Okay. Yeah, they definitely need some pitching. They got Greinke and Urquidy and not much else, right?
Yeah, and the Astros, they haven't added much. No. I mean, to the bullpen they brought Brantley back, but they need another arm. And if you can get Greinke and Odorizzi at the top, McCullers, Urquidy, and then hope Verlander comes back strong towards the end of the year, I mean, that gives you a chance to win one last time before some pieces start to fall off there.
Well, let's talk about the Toronto Blue Jays here for a second. So last year, they played their home games in Buffalo. This season, they announced that they're going to be playing in Dunedin, Florida, in that brand new complex that they built. I think this is the right move. Obviously, the government's not allowing them to play in Toronto right now. But I was listening to an interview with Mark Shapiro, and he said that the max they can play in Dunedin is probably June because it gets way too hot there, and I don't think they want to play there in the summer. So I think they're going to be moving to probably either Toronto in June or they're going to go up to Buffalo.
Yeah, I would guess they just stay in Dunedin at least until, after All-Star break. Maybe at All-Star break, we move all the crap to Toronto and go play.
Yeah.
But they just created a brand new facility. I don't know why you would leave. Honestly, wouldn't be surprised they played the whole season there.
Okay.
Especially because they can have fans there.
True.
So they can make money off that.
I think he said 20% capacity in spring training.
20% is better than no percent.
Exactly. 100%.
So I mean, if you can make beer sales, merchandise sales, even off 20%.
Yeah.
Even if it's only like 3% buy something, which probably is way higher than that. I'm just throwing numbers out. You're still making more money than you would have at 0%. So I think they're going to stay at the place where they can have fans.
Yeah, it's just tough. I mean, the Canadian government's just been super strict. Like, I mean, I just got laid off my job because they're not lifting restrictions. And I mean, it's super strict up here. You look down the states, some states are just running wild. Like COVID don't even exist. And up here, everything's just on lockdown. So I mean, I hope the Jays get to play in Toronto because I mean I think they're going to be an exciting team this year. And I mean, when the Blue Jays are good, those Blue Jay fans come in waves. I mean, you saw in 2015 and 2016 they led the AL in attendance. So when the Jays are good, the fans show up, and that place is 50,000 rocking. It is unbelievable. So that's how we'll end this episode. Stay tuned for previous or upcoming episodes. We're going to do division by division breakdown, and we're going to do a little bit of a power rankings.
Yeah. And me and Blake lost a good friend, Justin Damari, yesterday, unfortunately. I played ball at Minot State with Justin. Yeah. Justin cared about his friends. He was a great leader. For those of you that don't know Justin, I'm assuming that some of our friends from Minot State or that know us are listening to this. JD, I love you.
Yep.
And we'll miss you, brother. All right, guys. Take care.